This industry is the best industry known to man, and I'm proud to be the president and CEO now for 17 years here at the Arizona Restaurant Association, and I'm in my 7th year as an elected official with Maricopa County, which is, by the way, the fastest growing county in America for the 3rd consecutive year, Dave.
Wow.
We had 84,000 people move to Maricopa County, not the state of Arizona, Maricopa County in 2018.
You're listening to the Bar and Restaurant Podcast, where hospitality lovers come to listen and learn with expert David DiLorenzo. Now here's your host, the D-Lo.
And welcome back to the Bar and Restaurant Podcast. I am your host, the D-Lo. On today's episode, we have a special guest. He is the president of the Arizona Restaurant Association, Steve Chucri. And Steve has been the president for about 19 years now. So we talk all things restaurants. We talk about the association, all the different events and all the festivities that they put on. And we also talk about his time as he still is the Maricopa County Supervisor. And we talk about the growth and what's going on in Arizona. Along with that, we'll dig a little bit into his personal life, and we will, again, talk more and more about restaurants and what the trends are and what we're seeing today. So sit back, relax, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Thanks for listening. And we are here now with Steve Chucri, the El Presidente of the Restaurant Association. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Dave. Great to be with you.
Yeah, thanks for making the time to do this. We've known each other for quite a while, and last Monday we were at the golf tournament you guys were putting on, and I was sitting next to you reminding you about the podcast we were having, and as I'm reminding you, you're thumbing through your calendar, and I was like, wow, that is one busy man. You must have had 10 different things on your calendar. You probably already had, 7 meetings this morning?
Well, it's been crazy. And, I joke that I've got the good fortune of having 2 jobs because I've got an expensive wife and 2 kids. But no, this industry is the best industry known to man. And I'm proud to be the president and CEO now for 17 years here at the Arizona Restaurant Association. And I'm in my 7th year as an elected official with Maricopa County, which is, by the way, the fastest growing county in America for the 3rd consecutive year, Dave.
Wow.
We had 84,000 people move to Maricopa County, not the state of Arizona, Maricopa County in 2018. And this year we're expected to do the same. The 2nd fastest growing county in America is Clark County, Nevada, and we're going at a rate of 70% higher than they are in population growth, faster. We're going 70% faster than they are. So we're going to be the fastest growing county in America probably for the next few years at least. And what does that mean for restaurants? What does that mean for the $13 billion economy restaurants are to Arizona?
It means a lot more business. Yeah. It does. And so what's the research? What's the analytical science behind it? Why does everybody want to move to Maricopa County? Is it the food?
I think it's our good insurance providers, like you. No, I think it's a lot of things. I think people are seeing regulation in California that they don't like. They're seeing winters that they don't care for back east in the Midwest. And we're an attractive state. We're a young state. Think about it. Arizona was born in 1912. And so we're relatively young. Our infrastructure is new. People, that's attractive to folks. They like that. And I think from a dining scene, restaurants, I was born and raised right here in Arizona, right here in Mesa, Arizona. And I joke growing up, we had 2 kinds of food. We had Mexican food, and then we had a different kind of Mexican food. Right. But today's culinary diversity in Arizona is like it's never been before, and that's only going to continue.
Well, it's not just Mexican food anymore.
No.
It's everything.
Clearly not.
Yeah, this is literally the melting pot of people from all over New York, Chicago, LA, all that sort of stuff. So that's cool. Absolutely. So you'd mentioned you were born and raised in Mesa. You have a pretty big family. Correct.
A big family, yes. My grandfather on my mother's side was the first licensed auto dealer in the state of Arizona. He was born here a year before statehood on a visa with his parents.
Wow.
His parents were here on a visa. They gave birth to him, went back to Lebanon, and then he came back as a young boy on his own at 13 years old and couldn't read or write to the day he died.
Oh, my goodness.
And so he's a real success story. My father on my paternal side, my father, he immigrated here as a young boy too. His father was tragically killed in Beirut, Lebanon, and he moved over with his mom, who later died, and he raised his family. So it's a great story of how you can turn adversity into something positive.
For sure.
I just love Arizona. I love being here.
A lot of entrepreneurship, I would assume, in your family as
Absolutely.
well. Tell the story, because I know the story about your grandfather, how he sold his first car.
Yeah, it's a great story. So my grandfather came here with his father. They came through Mexico. And my grandfather was a U.S. citizen, right? Because he was born here. Even though it was a year before statehood, he was still born in America. And they turned my great-grandfather away at the border saying, "You're not a U.S. citizen."
Oh, my goodness.
And he literally handed my grandfather $5 and said, "Tony, you're on your own." He was homeless. He lived on patios of friends, slept on patios. And he was a miner. He was a miner. He sold to the mining community in Globe. And so at that time, they were called dry goods. So clothes and shirts and ties and the like. And he would sell it to all the mining families in Globe. And a friend of his said, "Hey, Tony, I'm looking for a car to buy. And you're out there every day. Why don't you tell me if you see something? Our budget's $50. So sure enough, my grandfather sees a car for sale, $50. And he goes and he gets the same shoe polish. He puts a 1 in front of the 5. And he says it's $50 down and $100 later. And he made a first $100 selling a car that was never his.
That's such a great story.
And it is. He was a true entrepreneur. And then he felt as though there needed to be parameters. So he said we should have licensing requirements. And he became the first licensed dealer. So his auto dealer license was literally 001.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was in the family for 82 years. And the day he died, he still couldn't read or write. He was just a man of great value in the sense of knowing his numbers, knowing people.
Yeah, just a hard
really
worker.
Successful.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you became president of this association about 17 years ago, you said.
Mm-hmm.
And what got you into this? What was it that you were like, hey, this is a great idea. I want to...
Well, growing up in the car business was a great education to me, and it's a very entrepreneurial business. It's changed dramatically in today's world of autonomous vehicles and the like. Still a great, awesome industry. I love the auto industry. And who doesn't like cars, right? But the restaurant industry, that's the industry that captured my heart. And I joke that, I was a busboy for 2 days and I quit because I knew I was going to be fired on the third. So I knew nothing about the restaurant industry. But what I did know is politics. And I had spent 6 years on Capitol Hill. And I was working here as a lobbyist for a year. And the association lobbyist came to me and said, "Hey, you got to interview for the CEO job." And I didn't think much of it. I interviewed on a Saturday morning at 7 and said, "They don't want me. They want someone else." But as luck and fate would have it, they selected me. And at that time, we were a very small association. And over the past few years, we've been very successful in growing this organization, but also growing as a industry. And like I said, we sold $13 billion worth of food in Arizona last year.
That's amazing.
That's an $800 million increase year over year.
Yeah.
We employ over 300,000 people. Nationally, we're going to sell food to the tune of $863 billion.
Wow.
In the United States of America this year. We are about to become a $1 trillion industry.
That is absolutely amazing when you think about it. Those numbers are just, I'm sure 17 years ago, the numbers were obviously a lot less.
I think when I started here, we were maybe 2 billion, 1.5.
Just unfathomable to think of where you're at now.
Absolutely.
And of course, it's all credited to you being the president, right? Of course,
and that's what I tell my board every day, and they rightfully laugh at my face and say, you have no clue. But I think it's a testament to what really can happen in Arizona.
Yeah.
And what we're capable of. Not only as an industry, but as a community.
It's such an amazing state and such a great place to grow and for new places to come in. And I remember having lunch with you a couple of times. I had the honor to have lunch with the Senator John McCain at the time, and he was involved. And just a lot of cool stuff that the association does that's a part of. And you talk about how you're a lobbyist and how you get in here. And we'll get into a little bit about what the association does, some of the aspects of what they do. But let's get back into your politics and your political roles and all that. So you became the Maricopa County Supervisor back in 2012, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And how has that been going? I mean, is that something that...
it's great. And Maricopa County is a real special place. And the kind of growth we're seeing it surprises me, but it doesn't when you really stop to think about Maricopa County. And what I love about the job is I knew that you could bring a business mindset to government.
Yeah.
And I remember my grandfather, every day he would go to his dealership. He would go into the service department and he'd shake every mechanic's hand and thank them for being there. and then would walk into the showroom and people would say, "You don't have to do that." I said, "Of course I've got to do that. They're our front line."
Yeah.
And when I look at Maricopa County as the fourth largest county in America, as the fastest growing county, as we now said, for 3 consecutive years, and the promise that we have, we now have brought in great ideas from the private sector. We can hire and fire at will now.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking a one-time jail and making it into office space for the county attorney. And I joked with the county attorney saying, "Look, every door opens and closes on its own. Everyone gets their own bathroom and sink." It's a great
awesome
opportunity. It's a great deal. And so where in America are you taking a one-time jail and you're converting it to office space?
No.
And think about that from a business mindset. Now, it's going to take 15 or 18 years to get the true appreciation of that, financially speaking. So in other words, we're taking these county attorneys out of all the lease space we have in and around Maricopa County. We're housing them in one place. So we're not paying rent anymore. But the cost of the building it is costly to renovate. However, in 15 or 18 years, we're revenue neutral. So then we start to appreciate where we're really, truly saving money.
Yeah.
Another thing we're doing in the county is, inmates are not cheap to house. A jail versus a prison is predicated on one thing: 1 year. So you're pre-sentenced. Your average, if you get arrested for something, which I know you've got a dark past, so you know what I'm talking about.
I'm trying not
if you get arrested for something, once you're in our jail system until you are sentenced. Once you are sentenced, you then go into our prison system, which is run by the state. What we were finding is when you would go to get arraigned, it was very costly for the county.
Yeah.
Here's a newsflash: inmates lie; they don't tell the truth. So when you ask them if they took their diabetic medication, and they say yes, and then they have a seizure on the way to their arraignment, you now are diverted to go to the hospital, which is more expensive, which requires now 2 detention officers, not 1, and on and on and on.
And on, yeah.
So just to tell you how we've been able to bring a business mindset to the county, we now do that through teleconferencing.
Ah.
So we set just something very similar to what we're doing today in front of an inmate on one side and a judge is on the other, on the jail campus. They don't leave. And they do their arraignment via video conferencing, which saves Maricopa County taxpayers almost $4 million a year.
That's
you don't
amazing.
have the flight risk that they can try to escape and some of the other things. So just using those technologies, we have a large morgue. We take 130 bodies into our morgue a week.
Wow.
And now we're getting very, very, very sophisticated in how we are handling the hiring of medical technicians. And so how we can do the things that we are required to do by law. As a county supervisor, I get sued 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I was sued 600 times, I think, my first term in office. We're now countersuing people. We're trying to bring those numbers down because of the frivolous lawsuits. So it's probably one of the most challenging jobs I've had, but all the rewarding too, because let me tell you, I can be the first to tell you, but we can bring a business mindset to government, and we're doing that.
Yeah, well, you're definitely the man for the job, and definitely the man for the restaurants out here too. So let's really dig into the association itself, and let's talk about all the different events and types of added value and benefits that the association has to offer to restaurants. So let's start with the Foodist Awards. This is something that has been going on, but in my opinion, has a sponsor, and as somebody that's been very intimate with it, just in the last few years has really taken off. Like the really, really, really big established award show of all of Arizona. What are your thoughts on the Foodist Awards so far?
It's been great. I'll tell you a couple of things. Arizona Restaurant Week is this week as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's one of your questions. I don't want to preempt you, but we didn't know people didn't know what Arizona Restaurant Week is or was. And I remember 11 years ago when we first started, I took my son into his first day of kindergarten at St. Thomas the Apostle. And he said, "Daddy, I've got a headache." I said, "Sweetheart, you're too young to even know what a headache is." And his teacher pipes in and says, "Grant, you can't have a headache. It's Friday, and it's most importantly the first day of Restaurant Week, and that's when the clouds parted, the sun came out." And I said, "Finally, someone knows what Restaurant Week is," and they didn't even know who I was. Right? It was my first day there. And then another mom says, "Oh, where are you going to go for Restaurant Week?" Right? And then now it's become a phenomenon in itself, and everyone knows it. They plan for it. We have 2 a year, not just 1.
Yeah.
That's the same thing that's going to happen with the Foodist Awards. In fact, I just left a meeting before starting this interview about Foodist Awards. Foodist Awards will become, and I think it practically is, the awards event for the hospitality industry in Arizona.
It's the Grammys for hospitality.
Exactly. It is the Grammys for hospitality. And where we're talking about so many creative and fun things we're going to do this year, with Foodist. And this is, again, something to celebrate that we have a James Beard Award winner for the first time in a long time right here in the Valley. And so we want to celebrate food. And when you think and look at the economy we are as an industry, that's why Foodist has become more and more, I think, center plate, to use a restaurant term, in that it is going to be quickly becoming the awards ceremony for the industry, in an industry that gives so much back to the community, in an industry that I think should be applauded for the great culinary work that they do each and every day. So we're really looking forward to it this October.
For sure. And I can say just within the years past, the restaurateurs, the movers and shakers in the bar industry, everybody that comes to this are looking so forward to it, and they sincerely love getting these awards. It's something that is now like, wow, if I get that, well, last year was a pineapple. If I get that pineapple, we've made it in sense, and it's fun. It's
and
really
Dave,
cool.
to that point, we were just talking about how people are very happy to present the pineapple, and showcase it in their restaurants,
right?
Which is what we want.
Which of course, social media has, with everything has changed, I think, the hospitality industry entirely. But more to that later. So let's get into more the nitty gritty of what the association does and what a lot of people don't see, and what I think a lot of people that aren't a part of the association sometimes maybe don't perceive the value, because at the end of the day, it's lobbying. It's, what's going on with minimum wage, what's going on with employee scheduling and all the different, training stuff that you guys offer. Tell me a little bit about the laws that are going on now that are really important.
Well, think of it as a three-legged stool. And if I joke that, and this isn't a dig on chambers of commerce, but I joke that we're not a chamber of commerce. I care about one thing when I wake up in the morning, that's restaurants, and I care about another thing when I go to bed at night, and that's restaurants.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing as an organization, as an association, is really three primary things. We're educating. We're making sure that our members are up to speed and knowledgeable about the latest food safety trends, and educating them to make sure they have the licensing and certifications to produce safe food that will be enjoyed by our patrons. Secondly, we advocate, to your point about lobbying, and we advocate to make sure that these unforeseen circumstances don't in any way inhibit the ability or success of a restaurateur or their establishment. And then lastly, it's about collaboration, which is our great event that we do once a year called Live and Local, that benefits the Boys and Girls Club of Scottsdale, or Restaurant Week, as we mentioned. And so if you look at that three-legged stool, each one of those functions is so important to the success of a restaurant.
For sure.
And so what we're looking to do is, how can we drive business to our restaurants? How can we protect our restaurants? And how can we make sure we're educating them? Here's a great example. We just came out with our ARA concierge events, where we have a facility where, and we've already have 5 contracts signed to host nonprofits or anyone else that say, hey, we might want that different experience.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, restaurants are an extension of your living room or your dining room or your kitchen, however you want to
community.
Do it, right? Yeah, exactly. And so we now have a great, wonderful venue to where if someone comes to us and says, we want to host a lunch or a dinner for 200 people or 300 people or 400 people, but we simply don't want to go to a hotel or your standard place. We want something different. We bring them to this venue and we say, okay, what would you like? Would you like a fine dining experience? Would you like a Mexican-themed experience? Would you like a Chinese-themed experience? And just kind of go on down the line.
Right.
And then we pair them with one of our member restaurants. So let's use Capitol Grill, a great steakhouse that everyone's familiar with.
Yeah.
We will have Capitol Grill come in with restaurant food in this venue.
Okay.
And we're marrying the restaurant with the patron and driving business they would really never get.
Yeah,
they would really never get. And it's taken off. This is our first year. Like I said, we've already got 5 events booked, and we're serving as kind of that intermediary between both sides, and it's really gotten off.
Just another added benefit of being
another
part
added
of the
benefit of being a part of who we are. We had a restaurant that had a great ice cream product that had their own pasteurization as part of it, yet they were being regulated by 2 different forms of government.
Yeah.
Which this goes under the advocacy umbrella. And we said, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. And we ran a bill through the legislature that the governor was so excited to sign, he called and said, I'm not signing this at my desk. We're going to go to restaurant.
I
We're going to sign
That's
it.
great.
And we got it signed into law. So now they're only regulated by one entity. So look, the savings are dramatic. And I think the partnership between our member restaurants and the association has never been stronger. But it's our job to keep that strength going and to ensure that we're able to provide them with the things they need to run their restaurants.
Yeah, and it's such a minimal fee to be a part of something that's just
Right.
the part of the big picture of Arizona in general, and to be associated with other restaurants that are doing the same thing with success and all that. And so
Well, and that's an important point, Dave, because we strive to be the best we can for our members. And I will argue that we are the least expensive association in the nation to join.
You've seen them all.
And so, our business model is $295 for a year.
Right.
And look, I understand restaurants can be tight on cash, but you can afford $295 a year for the things that we offer you.
Oh, they can be tight on insurance, and
exactly,
that's something that they really need to have.
Exactly.
But you just got back from the NRA, is that correct?
Correct.
You're in Chicago, and anything new, exciting that you saw come out of there?
It was really fascinating because this is my last year on the board of the National Restaurant Association. Okay. I've been on the board for 12 years, and
wow.
so I've earned my keep. But they're the most fascinating and talented people you'll ever come to know. And you've got our chairman this year of the board is the president and CEO of Wolfgang Puck. He also happens to be my fellow Lebanese brethren. Great guy. And so what were we talking about? We were talking about the technology needs of tomorrow for the restaurant industry. And that technology is going to be front and center of everything we're doing. We're talking about robots in the back of the house.
Wow.
Right? Back of the house is the kitchen. Front of the house is obviously where we serve our patrons.
Yeah.
But we're talking about robotic arms that are going to take a basket of French fries and dump them out, and then you're going to have salt sprinkled down on top of them. We're talking about kiosks that you're going to be ordering from.
Just punch
Technology is changing.
Wow.
It's changing this industry. And when you talk about the delivery companies and the entities, the DoorDashes and the Uber Eats and everything else, what is that doing to our business model? Because when you use Uber Eats and you're likely not ordering that beer or that cocktail.
Right.
So the face and functionality and operating side of the restaurant industry is changing dramatically.
Yeah.
Changing faster than we can keep up. And so those are the types of things that we were talking about is how will we be ready for that in the future? How can we ensure that, look, one important thing about the restaurant industry is everyone's got to eat to survive, right?
That's true.
You don't necessarily have to own a car. There's other forms of transportation. But what substitution is there for food? There isn't.
There isn't. And is there research or is there any analytics that you've come across just in the past year of how many people just say in Arizona, like how many times a week they go out to eat?
Our frequency?
Yeah.
I think that we saw with the recession that dipped down to about three times a week. The high side we see is 5 to 6.
Yeah.
Which is great. Now that includes lunch and that includes everything. But
you're on that high side, I would assume.
But yeah, I'm on the high side because there's a reason why I'm in this business. I can't cook, and neither can my wife.
Right.
And my kids love it too. So I think we always are going to have to eat, and it's going to be our job. Now, I will tell you, we have a lot of restaurants in Arizona, and even though we have this overwhelming population growth, it's hard to compete, especially when you have the cost to run a business, especially a restaurant business, increasing by way of labor and other things. That's why you see what you see with the technology becoming more and more intertwined in our daily activities. And that's why you're going to see labor start to be culled back. And what I mean by that is next time you go into a restaurant, even a quick service restaurant, how many young teenagers are working in there? Right. And you're not seeing that anymore.
No.
How many busboys are you seeing in a restaurant? And you're not.
Yeah, you're not.
And so it's sad.
Yeah, it is.
It's sad because we're the industry of opportunity, Dave.
Yeah.
And we're the industry of first jobs. We are the industry of what it means to be a responsible young adult.
No, for sure.
Right?
And you as an association, I know that you guys really advocate and promote, and you have charities that are to help younger chefs and to help people get into the industry and be a part of that. Was it ProStart? Is that
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I got the judge at one of those and see all these young
right.
kids that were, basically high school kids that are putting together their restaurant and then they had the cook and do all, and I think that's great because there's a lot of opportunity in this business, and as society changes, as all these big box places basically go away and then they carve them out and these landlords need more tenants in there, they're going to end up being either gyms or restaurants.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it's come down
You're right.
to.
And they are becoming, and here's what's, they call them grocerants. The restaurants and grocery stores.
Right.
They actually came up with a term. I'm screwing it up right now. But they're coming up with their own term about these restaurants that are inside grocery stores.
Yeah.
Right?
Or Fry's that has the wine bar.
I was at a QT. I was at a gas station, and they had not signs in front of it
right.
as to how cheap gas was. They had signs in front of it as to what they were offering by way of food for $4.
No kidding.
For a sub sandwich. And if you don't think that's cutting into our market share, think again.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, and those hot dogs on the revolving grill.
Exactly, which I wouldn't recommend. So the reality is this. Just 5 years ago, for the first time in 100 years, restaurant sales outperformed grocery store sales.
Wow.
Think about what that means from a socioeconomic level, right? So the people who might be blue-collar workers or whatever you want to call them without stereotyping folks, folks that would typically bring a brown bag to lunch or to their work, a brown bag lunch to their employment, they're maybe go get the $5 footlong, or they might be going to these convenience stores or doing these other things because the economies of scale are driving that.
And I know my staff does a lot of that. I mean, I see the bags coming back all the time from the different, fast casual, which is another growing market. That's
the fastest growing market in the industry.
Yeah.
So when you start to look at these things, you're seeing that our society, millennials, everything keeping up. And I just had a meeting this morning with a gentleman who said, but I don't want to always eat at home. I don't want to always order in.
Yeah.
16% of some of the major chains traffic is takeout. 16%.
Wow.
That's a big number.
It is a huge number.
That's a very big number.
Yeah.
But I think the pendulum is going to swing. I think it's swinging one way to convenience, and it's going to swing back to ambiance and enjoyment and entertainment.
For sure. Because again, people want a place to come to commune. They don't want to do dishes. I mean, that's the one thing my wife says to me. She's like, I just cleaned the kitchen. Can we go out to eat tonight? I'm like,
that's right.
Okay, absolutely. Because
that's right.
She's happy when we do that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
To be the president of an association, obviously you have to have, I'll just quite frankly say it, a kick-ass team behind you. And I know you've had Jana forever, and you have a bunch of other amazing people. How does that feel to have all those people, running this race with you and doing what they do?
I read a blog the other day. I was reading, I can't remember the site I was on, but it said that, are you a micromanager? And if you're ever a boss, you're going to read something like that.
Yeah.
And it gives all these reasons. It basically had two, just like a split page of pros and cons of if you are a micromanager and if you're not. And it had this list, and it said, if you're constantly checking on your staff, if you're constantly asking these questions, you're constantly doing this, then you hired the wrong person.
Right.
In other words, if you're a micromanager, then you hired the wrong people.
You hired the wrong people.
And that's a great commentary. And I'm blessed to say I'm not a micromanager, not because I'm a brilliant hiring boss, but because I picked the right people.
Yeah.
And you got to let the folks, the individuals that you hire, you have to let them learn on their own, and you have to failure is the best instructor, right? But you also have to make sure that you're putting a path forward that they can succeed. And so I have two guiding principles when I hire someone and what I do, and that is that my job is to grow them professionally and to grow them financially.
Right.
And that they are the CEO of their given subject matter.
Yeah.
So if you do events for the Restaurant Association, you're the CEO of events or marketing or PR or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
But I'm the largest shareholder. And so if I believe the stock price isn't where it should be,
I love this.
and I'm the largest shareholder,
yeah,
then you're going to hear from me, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to tell you you're not doing what you should be doing.
That share price.
And I will tell you that it's worked well for me. You know, we've got employees that have been here in 20 years, and 10 years and 5 years. And so I'm blessed to have good people. And I will tell you that we as an association, we as an industry wouldn't succeed without them.
No, I completely agree. And I've enjoyed being associated with you guys and being an affiliate to the ARA and being able to work with them for the last 11, 12 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a lot of fun. So couple things before we kind of exit the podcast, but anything you want to state about just the future of Arizona restaurant business besides the technology aspect that you learned at the NRA? Anything else that comes to mind that...
I think that you're going to continue to see a dramatic evolution of food.
Yeah.
And it used to be the farm to table was
right, yeah.
And chefs and restaurants growing some of their own vegetables in front of their restaurant and everything. And I think that's great. I think that's good and fine. I believe that that you'll continue to see those trends reflect what the market wants.
Yeah.
And that you'll continue to see food that you would never imagine would be food that would be consumed in a restaurant to be food that's consumed in a restaurant.
Right.
So what does that amount to at the end of the day? I think that amounts to amazing creativity and diversity when it comes to menu.
Yeah.
So keep your eye out for that. Secondly, I think food trucks are going to continue to evolve. And there's this one very, very infantile entity that is coming into urban areas, and they call it food hall. And what they're doing is, think of a former, you spoke about it a little bit ago, a former grocery store, or maybe big box store,
right?
Former Best Buy, or
whatever.
And they're coming in and they're setting up mini restaurants.
Right.
It is a diverse group of restaurants, and they might go into the first floor of a 20-story high-rise in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So they've got built-in customers,
yeah,
right? And that they are running the point-of-sale systems.
Gotcha.
They're doing all of this thing, and they are approving your menu.
Wow.
Right? And they're telling you what you can and can't do. And so that to me is 21st century 2.0, if there is such a thing.
And that's something that you see potentially in Arizona?
Well, I think at the right time.
Yeah.
No, I don't see it in Arizona, but I see it as a trend that's happening around the country.
Right.
That, you can, I'm not going to name names, but yeah, I can tell you buildings today right here in some of the most expensive zip codes that don't have restaurants in their office buildings.
Right.
And the customer's demanding that.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of time before it gets to Arizona, but that is one fascinating trend that I recently read about and learned about.
That's cool.
That I think is going to be, think of a pop-up restaurant, but there's 20 of them in one building.
All right there. Yeah. Right, something for everybody. Yep. A good night out.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Couple of quick fire questions. What is your favorite vacation spot?
Coronado.
I knew you were going to say Coronado. I knew it. Go for a run or a long bike ride?
Lately run.
Okay. Really?
Yes.
Proud of you.
Yeah. I'm boxing too, 3 times a week.
You're boxing and running. We've been talking about that.
I remember Dave when he was fat, by the way, but that's a separate podcast.
Yeah, I was definitely a little bit chubbier than this.
Yeah.
Okay. How many hours of sleep do you get?
On a good night, 7.
Okay. That's good. That helps with your running. Average number of emails you get a day?
I don't pay attention to email. I get probably a few hundred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Suit or jeans?
Unfortunately, more a suit.
Yeah.
Not by choice.
Last question. Snoop Dogg or Van Halen?
Van Halen, because my wife thinks he's cute.
Okay. She thinks that he's cute. Before we leave, I know you don't have a crystal ball. You want to keep doing this for another 10 years?
Look, I love this industry.
Yeah.
This is a perfect marriage for me of an industry I absolutely love, and policy that I absolutely love from the political side. So I think for now, this is the great spot for me. It's a frenetic pace, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I joke that I didn't realize how much time I used to waste. And so, they say give a busy man, so if you need something done, give it to a busy man, but I enjoy it. And I've got a great board of directors here at the Restaurant Association that affords me the opportunity to do both. And I've got 800,000 constituents in my supervisorial district that I get the pleasure to wake up and and serve every day. So I'm a blessed man, and for now, this is it.
That's great, and you're definitely the man for the job. So
thank you.
It's
and
amazing.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, is there anything you want to tell the audience that's listening as far as the Restaurant Association, where to find you, or anything like that?
There's several things. I would say pay attention to our Arizona Restaurant Weeks.
Yep.
That happen. I think the consuming public loves our Arizona Restaurant Weeks, and the best way to do that is just go to ArizonaRestaurantWeek.com. If a restaurateur is listening and wants to learn more about who we are as an association, they can certainly go to ararestaurant.org.
Yeah.
And learn more about what we do. But look, I think Arizona, I would just tell your listeners or viewers that next time you're in a restaurant, just do something different.
Right.
Order something that you wouldn't typically order at your favorite restaurant, or pay attention more to the ambiance.
Have fun with it. Enjoy the experience. Yeah.
It's the adage is trite and old that says, stop and smell the roses from time to time, but there's something true about it.
Well, these men and women, they work their asses off. I mean, they really do, and they put their heart and soul into, all these restaurants that they do, and you see it firsthand, and so do I. I mean, all the time we're out at these places. So.
It's hard. And Dave, the joke in the restaurant business is, how do you make $1 million in the restaurant industry? You start with 2.
Right.
Right. And there's a lot of truth in that. And people think it's for the money, and that restaurateurs make money hand over fist. And at the end of the day, it really isn't.
No.
It's about one word and one word only, and that's passion.
Yeah.
And every restaurateur has passion.
They do.
And you see it in the food they provide.
I love that word, passion. So that is definitely a good way to end the podcast. So thank you again for taking your time. I know you're busy. I saw your calendar.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Again, everybody, thank you for listening to the Bar and Restaurant Podcast. And today we had Steve Chucri, the president of the Restaurant Association. And please subscribe to the podcast. Give me a 5-star. You'd be so awesome to do that. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and we'll have some other stuff in the show notes. So thanks again, and we'll talk at you guys next time.